Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the CLP interview series. Today we're with Dr. Ahmed Siddig, who is Associate Professor of Environmental Conservation at the University of Khartoum. He has served many international consultancies as an expert in the fields of ecology, biodiversity conservation, and climate change. Welcome, Ahmed.
Thank you so much for having me, and so welcome, and glad to be here.
Great. So we understand that you have been working for many years now in the field of drought management in Sudan. I'd like to start off the interview to know a bit more about Sudan's vulnerability to drought and what are the impacts of drought in Sudan.
Great. Again, let me just thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm so happy to share some of the work that we have been doing in Sudan, and especially in the context of the Dresser project. I have been fortunate to be the consultant on developing the Sudan's drought management plan for the project, and that was a very enriching experience, I would say. Going to your question, Sudan is, as known, geographically located in the Sahel region of Africa and characterized by a harsh, arid, and semi-arid climate conditions. And so that geography very much put it Sudan in just to be a country that's susceptible and very vulnerable to the climate change and drought-related phenomenon, and especially the countries relies heavily on the rain-fed agriculture for its economy. That makes it very vulnerable. But also there are other aspects, I would say, that are contributing to the drought vulnerability in Sudan. So the socioeconomic factors that's related to the dependency, as I said, on the agricultural sector. The also a large portion of the population depends on the agricultural or, if you will, the agro-silvopastoral practices and their livelihood and food security. Besides the limitations in the infrastructure, the technological advances, and of course, no way to talk about Sudan's vulnerability without saying also the challenges related to the political instability and governance issues. So altogether, this geography, socioeconomics, technological infrastructure limitations, besides political instability, are the major vulnerabilities to Sudan right now in relation to the drought. If I wanted to talk about the impacts, I think I will at least talk about 3 to 4 direct impacts that drought has in general in Sudan. First and foremost, drought is a critical threat to the food security. As I said, the majority of the population depends on the agricultural sector, and that is just a direct threat to the production related to crop failures and also diminishing of many crop production, and so that is kind of the important aspect. The second aspect related to the water scarcity, and these water shortages is really something that has been witnessed and observed now over and over, and already some of the reports are really indicating that there are great shifts in the amount of rainfall that Sudan receives, and with estimates as 6 millimeter per month decline in the amount of rainfall. And also the timing of rainfall now has been shifted and changed a lot. Besides, the length of the rainy season itself is shrinked substantially, and so all these factors together are contributing to the water shortages and making water more scarce. Third impact, which is related to the livelihoods of the people and the means of living, but also as well as related to the health systems and how people survive, different outbreaks of diseases, beside the challenges that just makes it on their daily lives when making livelihoods and getting some means of earning money to survive. After all, drought is also one of the greatest environmental threat in the sub-Saharan Africa and the Sahel region. And from the last 3 decades of drought waves in this region, there is a witness displacement and mobility that people have seen, and that actually caused a lot of crowd in the urban centers and made urban areas are very crowded and pressured by the displacement of people just due to the reduction in the land productivity, but also worsening of drought events and more frequent events that hitting those urban rural sites and areas makes people more tendent towards migrating to the urban cities. So if I were to sum up the direct impacts, I would say the impact has been notable on the food security and nutrition, on the livelihoods and health systems, but also on the water scarcity, as well as the displacement and urban pressure. So yeah, that's kind of like my answer.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's quite impressive to see that, drought has been affecting the water systems, as you said, the environment, the being a big push for rural to urban migration, and also the health impacts and the livelihood impacts. So I understand that as part of the Dressier project at the moment, there are a number of initiatives that have been started to have proactive management, and one of those is the formulation of a national drought management plan. Can you explain a bit to us what were the key objectives of that plan and the principles that guided its formulation?
Yes. So in fact, the Dressier project in Sudan is really took the lead in developing a drought management plan, and actually it is an initiative that already stood out because it came after previous initiatives in Sudan that has attempted to develop drought management plan, and the last one was in 2018, so like 6-7 years ago, as we speak. And the current drought management plan that has been developed through the Dressier project has 4, overlapping, I would say, but also a very coordinated objectives that aim to fulfill. First and foremost, it aims to enhance resilience and promote the strengths and elevate the resiliency of the smallholders, farmers, and pastoralist communities in Sudan, and just gives them more means to resist and to build a better life, reducing the vulnerabilities around them. And the second aspect is related again to the sustainability of the livelihoods. As I said, apart from not only enhancing the resilience in terms of the physical assets, but also based on their livelihood and way of making a living. And the third aspect, which is related to the improvement in the drought preparedness at the country level, where there are some need for early warning systems to be in place, but also some strategies to curb and combat the drought occurrences and minimize its impact. And after all, the fourth and the last important aim for the drought management plan of Sudan, that is to better and effectively use the resources and manage them in a coherent and coordinated way. And based on these four interacting and overlapping objectives, the principles that guided our development of the plan is to, first of all, look at the sustainability. So the plan really needs to be grounded on the sustainability, focusing on practices that not only address immediate drought challenges, but also consider long-term environmental impacts. And second principle is about also making it a collaborative effort where many stakeholders can come to play and promote partnership among them. And the third principle is really also try to make it a flexible process where it can be adaptable, and that is just something, it needs to be also flexible enough to be something that can be responsive enough during the dynamic nature of climate change impacts in the area. But the drought has a driver for that. And the fourth and last principle that we were really counting on it and has received a lot of discussion and also kind of importance, I think, the community involvement. That is an important, I think, asset for this drought management plan, is always to think about a people as ultimate beneficiaries out of all the initiatives we are conducting. So again, the principles are really not only limited to the sustainability, but also partnership and adaptability, and of course having the plan to be people-centered, where the community involvement is a heart of it.
Thanks for this. So I understand from what you said that this plan was originally seeded, or the idea of developing, back in 2017. So we understand developing these plans really cannot be done overnight. So can you tell us a bit about the process and the step that you and the team undertook to develop this plan? You mentioned things around community involvement, for example. So yeah, tell us a bit about the process of developing such national drought management plan in Sudan.
Sure, yeah. Speaking of the process of developing the drought management plan of Sudan, first of all, it started, so it took like 6.5 to 7 months, I would say, starting from late August 2024, and ending some point early March this year, 2025. And the process involved four, primary steps, if you will, involving multiple methods of performance to develop it. And I would say the first and the crucial step that we took at the beginning is just to do a sort of initial assessment and desk study, where the consultancy team has conducted a comprehensive review for the existing knowledge on drought management in Sudan, and looking at, what type of early warning systems is being used, how climate change impacted Sudan, and especially impacts on the agricultural or agro-pastoral systems. And given that also the Dressing project in Sudan is focused more its activities on a Salam locality in the White Nile state, we had also devoted more of our attention to projects or parallel initiatives that's been taking place in that area. So looking at their project documents and different reports from also line ministries like, or departments like forestry, range and water resources and economic affairs. So that is kind of like the initial assessment, just to make us aware of where we are standing. And then we, of course, did some introductory stakeholder consultations. And that stakeholder consultation, of course, we're starting it with the DRESIA projects themselves, where we had to meet with the team of the project on the headquarters, but also their representative in the White Nile State, in their office in Kosti. And after that, basically, so like that is stakeholder consultation started with the DRESI team is just kind of to start actually collaboratively and participatorily thinking about the methodology that we will be adopting in the project implementation and the development of the drought management plan in relation to other parallel activities that are taking place at the moment. And so that actually gave us a great insights on who should be our really, target for consultation and the next steps beyond the project team. And that actually led us to conduct 3 consultation meetings with stakeholders in the White Nile State, but also at the national level. And given the situation and circumstances of the crisis in Sudan, we had to do most of this in either one-on-one conversations with officials through the phones, even sometimes using WhatsApp application for communication, but also through an online meetings as much as we can. And fortunately also we could do in-person consultation sessions, at least in the White Nile State, where it's been really well attended by many representatives from stakeholder representatives like, government agencies, and, ministries like the water, environment, and, water cooperation agencies, and also relevant and appropriate NGOs related to the drought and drought management in the area. The consultation is also not only linked with the group of governmental and non-governmental organization representative, but we were also eager to meet with the project beneficiaries. And especially looked at the gender aspects. We looked at the representation from youth, from women, and had to meet with these populations and the study sites, the project locations. We have visited many of these villages. I think, if I'm correct, I think we were on the site visited 12 of these villages, which is over 80% of them, I think. So out of this is not only on this second stage eager to do the stakeholder consultation, but we were really interested also to hear from the community and make them involved in the initiation of the drought management process. And so that lead us to the third stage, where we also did some now field site visits, I would say, and some community surveys. That is kind of more of focused group discussion on detailed community needs, looking at their demographies, looking at some questions related or concerns from the community related to their resistance, their experience with drought, and to what extent they have, what are the kind of means of local management for the drought that they have been tackling it. And after all, we were kind of just interested to do a simple vulnerability analysis and study where kind of relying on a bottom-up approach. So after the field visits where we also looked at the infrastructure in the area and other related aspects of the drought management. We then also employed some remote sensing technology, for instance, to assess the drought patterns, looking at the biophysical resources and changes in the land uses and land cover over 3 to 4 decades. Before the project has started in the area, also looking at the meteorological observations and time series data related to the precipitation and temperature in the area. And after all, we collected a suite set of information related not only to the climate observations, as I said, but also a great analysis of remote sensing and satellite imagery data, besides the community information, and then also received a lot of great recommendations and insights from our consultation with other project, governmental and non-governmental stakeholders. And so with this data collection stage, we wrapped it up there and then moved now to report our findings and talk about what we can deliver out of this, given that our term of reference is really it was clear that we need to develop multiple documents to tackle the drought in terms of the short-term impacts, that is kind of the drought emergency response plan, and then also thought about the longer term but also larger scale at the national level plan, which is the drought management plan that is we are now primarily talking about. And after that, also we have some thoughts on developing some capacity building training materials to feed in. So, and that is kind of like the roadmap in our way. We developed all these deliverables, and we come up with a drought management plan that we had to validate it in a validation workshop. That's kind of like the final stage of where we, conducted a 2-day validation workshop that had been attended by the project stakeholders. And the purpose of that workshop is, first of all, to share and discuss and validate the provisional results of the consultancy that we have been collecting so far at that point. And also kind of receive inputs and more insights from the stakeholders on potential suggestions, but also means of improvement for the final draft of the drought management plan. So by the end of the validation workshop, and with great honor that we received great inputs and suggestion recommendation, that improved and enhanced the draft of the plan very well and made it a very usable document. So again, if I would like just to summarize, the methodology has been really enriching and fulfilling to us as a team, and has been ranging from looking at what is available in terms of state of knowledge about drought and drought management in Sudan, but also looking at the opportunities to involve stakeholders in terms of consultation for them, and looking also at technological advances like remote sensing and other time series analysis for drought data. And after all, a consultation or synthesis workshop where we have validated the documents. So that is very much the process.
Thanks. It's very interesting to hear about this comprehensive approach, and congratulations, because really you've put you and the team a lot of efforts to ensure that the needs of the communities and of the stakeholders are being proactively met. And So perhaps as a follow-up, thanks for highlighting the process, but I'm interested in the plan in itself. So for those who are listening who never saw a plan, National Drought Management Plan, what does it contain and how is it structured exactly?
Yeah, so again, just kind of like to remind about the product of the process that we've been advocating or working on it is to come up with a drought management plan, that is a document, and that document is supposed to be a prescription, I believe, or if you will, as an audience, is just something that to give you a roadmap of prescription to apply something that can have and help on combating drought and its impact in Sudan, especially on the agro-pastoral communities. And so the ingredients and the content of the drought management plan that we developed, it composed of 12 chapters. And these chapters are really very well thought of, but also have received a lot of consultation, again, with the stakeholders, with the project team, and with the Dresia team as well at the PMU based in Sudan. And but in the short, let me just summarize what the table of content of the drought management plan composed of. So the first chapter, it is obviously an introduction where we stated the state of knowledge on drought and the impacts that drought making in Sudan. But also a little bit of relationship with climate change and the political context that I mentioned earlier for Sudan as a unique country just south of the Sahara Desert and the Sahelian country. And then we move to the second chapter where we then talked about the principles and the process for developing the drought management plan of Sudan. And on that chapter, we were kind of just interested to put the spirit of the plan, if you will, on the upfront pages where the reader and the decision maker and the policy developer can really get why we are interested on developing something like a drought management plan in Sudan. And then moving forward, in the chapters between 3 to 4, 5, we were more interested to kind of give the big picture. So in the chapter number 3, we address the relationship of the drought management plan that we are interested to develop with other plans and existing policies in Sudan related to natural resources and environment, such as forestry, water resources, rangeland, as well as other environmental disciplines. And in chapter 4, we talked loudly about the stakeholders and the assignment of responsibilities on the plan. If we would like to have a successful implementation, this is important ingredient to have. And so we were kind of listed the important stakeholders for the plan and the assignment of the responsibilities for every stakeholder. And on the 5th chapter, we talked now about the drought monitoring and forecasting and early warning. And on the next chapter, we talked about the risk and the vulnerability in relation to Sudan. So on these chapters, we were really relied on the meteorological information and data that we collected, but also the consultation that we had, the responses we received from the communities. And all of that has been integrated on these two chapters, where we came up with a nice diagrams, figures, and maps showing the hotspot areas of drought in Sudan and the forecast for the next few decades. And that's also kind of where we a little bit discussed the context of Sudan in terms of, conflict and instability. How does that also will cascade on the drought impacts of on farmers and pastoralist communities, but also on the national level policies on addressing drought and climate change in Sudan. In the chapter number 7, we then started to talk about the communication and response actions, how drought communication may be a best way to tackle and to spread the word and awareness, and make the stakeholders having a better responses to all these risks and vulnerabilities. And on the chapter number 8, we talked about the mitigation and preparedness strategies, and we had to lay out some lines of mitigation and some areas that better to be considered as a preparedness for better drought management in Sudan. And on the chapter number 9, there we had to talk about public awareness and research and education. They are important pieces, of course, and how research institutions and higher education institutions, but also primary education, secondary education institutions can come to play in enforcing and participating on a successful implementation of the drought management plans. And of course, the successful implementation of all environmental endeavors and initiatives needs some sort of funding and money and partnership. And so that is what we mostly focused on in the chapter 10, where we talked about the resource mobilization strategies and the partnership strategies and how we could do better in terms of recruiting more funding. What are the top areas, or at least the couple of first priorities that we should be, focused on when we're talking about drought and drought, management in Sudan. And then on the last chapter, which is chapter 11, we just gave a wrap-up conclusion and some headlines and recommendations for the drought management plan of Sudan. But overall, it is a very extensive, I think, and comprehensive document that we are proud to develop, and looking forward to see much of it implemented.
Thanks for this very comprehensive overview. And as soon as it's publicly available, we're also going to link it to the page on the YouTube channel directly. So you mentioned that the last chapter is on recommendations for probably for policymakers. Can you tell us a bit about the recommendations in terms of the next steps and what needs to be prioritized as part of putting this plan into action?
First of all, I think it needs to be recognized by the top tier policymakers and the higher level of senior officials in the country, and be endorsed at the a higher level of the country decision makers. That's, I think, the first step, and I think the project personnel and the BMU in the national Dressia Sudan are really doing their best on pushing that forward, as far as I know right now. The second I think the second step is also supposed to be related to funding and resource mobilization, where I think the successful implementation of a such interesting and comprehensive plan needs a lot of resources, and this is where I think much of the effort need to be put into there. Of course, I mentioned also the engagement of local communities supposed to be a top priority that I think if received more attention will enhance, I think, and significantly improve the success of the implementation of the activities that has been proposed in the plan. And also issues related to training and capacity building. I think more training and more capacity building on areas related to, for instance, how we could make, drought risk and vulnerability analysis, for instance, and how we could equip our training and extensionist officers at the ministries of agriculture, for instance, with better tools of communication, and how better we could also help our staff in the meteorological authorities with better methodologies and techniques on analyzing the meteorological time series data. So all these training capacity builders, I think, are supposed to be a priority as well, and something that we should all support and go for. I think one of the important things, especially related to Sudan, is that all these efforts needs to be well monitored and evaluated. So I'm saying that it is important to have a solid and robust monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to gauge the successes, but also to point out where the shortfalls and limitations. And all these, detections will allow us to better enhance our capabilities on just successfully implementing the drought management plan and deal with it. Finally, I believe also in collaboration and stakeholder involvement and partnership. So I think the more we promoted collaboration and coordination and partnership, the better we will be ending up having it is a good way to have a happy ending in terms of implementing the drought management plan. So that is kind of like where I could see the next step is moving towards capacity building, also partnership and fostering collaborations, but also establishing M&E systems, and after all, engaging community heavily in the activities besides looking for resources.
Thanks. So on this note of fostering collaboration, this is my last question to you. We understand that there are many other East African and Central African and MENA region countries that are currently embarking in the process of developing their national drought management plan. So in having gone through the process yourself, what would be a word of advice that you would have to offer to your colleagues in Africa and elsewhere that are currently about to embark in this journey of developing national drought management plans?
Yeah, great. I think that is a good question, and that is actually also one of the spirit of the DRESIA projects, just being at least implemented right now in 4 countries. Definitely, sharing the experiences and just making such experience visible to others and have others learn from it I think it's worthwhile, and it should be supported. But specifically, I would point out at least 3 to 4 points or directions that I feel maybe a lines of trying and words to be advocated by fellow scientists and policymakers in our neighboring countries in the region of East Africa here. First of all, I would really strongly advise that whenever we are developing drought management plan, we need to understand the local context and tailor our specific initiative to the local needs as much as we can. Yes, of course, drought has a very similar roots, but also impacts. However, the way we are, just dealing with the interventions to promote, for instance, community resilience or have community livelihood, drought resilient enterprises may be varying and different from Sudan to Djibouti to Ethiopia to Kenya. So I would say just we need to tailor our specific in initiative and interventions to the local needs as much as we can. Second, also the incorporation of best practices. I know I already suggested to have always a M&E mechanisms. Unfortunately, almost all these projects are coming with these mechanisms, and that is a way to learn the best practices. So it will be really beneficial to everyone just to kind of incorporate all these best practices and share it amongst each other and have these best practices performed and tested elsewhere. So, for instance, the experience of developing the drought management plan in Sudan and its methodology, where it has, multifaceted steps and phases and methodologies and approaches. It can be well situated to Sudan, but then how we could make that also work in Ethiopia, for instance, or how we could have the the Somalian version of the drought management plan process works in Kenya, or how Kenyan version works in Sudan, and vice versa. I found also interesting in our path of developing the drought management plan is really and actually that just makes a lot of sense to have the community be part of the process. So I strongly encourage and advise the other countries to engage the communities as a focal beneficiary and make it a center of all the process. Of the whole process, I mean. And of course, other stakeholders are also very important, like NGOs, because many NGOs are working on the same theme, and so that makes it very understandable, but also desirable to pool all these resources at once. And you will never get that sense until you talk to someone else from the same group and for they having the same purpose in the area. So again, just engaging stakeholders is crucial and important. And after all these developed national drought management plans and other plans as well related to the natural resource management, supposed to be a seed that can strongly build a policy frameworks for improving the practice on the natural resource management, and also advocating for longer term adaptation and mitigation plans for climate change as a whole, but also especially for drought. Finally, I will always support and suggest for countries to focus also on the capacity building, not only in terms of building the systemic capacities and infrastructure of the institutions, but also it is really important also to look at the personnel, at the training on some cutting edge technologies and methodologies nowadays being used elsewhere. So yeah, overall, I see capacity building, partnership, lesson learning, and engagement of stakeholders, but also incorporation of best practices beside focusing on the local context are really top advices that I see other countries may find useful.
Great. I hope that your colleagues from Ethiopia, from Kenya, from Somalia, from the rest of Africa have tuned in today and listened to all these incredible insights from the development process of Sudan's drought management plan. So with this, Dr. Ahmed Siddig, we'd like to thank you very much for your time and have a good day.
Thank you so much, and I just enjoyed talking to you, but also I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who really helped us. This is a collective effort from my team, from the BMU of the DRC Sudan, but also for special thanks to the stakeholders, to the communities who have been part of this process, to the officials at the White Nile State and the national level in Sudan. Thank you so much.